Thank you for coming to this interview in the name of the Organization of Lusophone and Hispanic Students at IU, Indiana University, Bloomington. Débora, I would like to ask you a few questions. Some of them we've already discussed in your previous presentation, but I think sharing this with our viewers is also very interesting. Do I need to introduce her, right? Or okay,
yeah,
okay, good. Yeah. So, você corta essa parte.
Tá.
So Débora is a journalist, political science activist.
Sorry, can you start everything again?
Tá bom, começa.
Deixa eu só falar uma coisa, aproveitar já que você vai começar de novo. Eu olho pra câmera, olho pra ela.
Na hora que ela estiver falando pra câmera, você olha pra câmera. Depois pode olhar pra ela, como
tá
se
bom.
fosse uma conversa normal.
Tá.
Tá, então deixa eu começar do início. Okay. Então, me corrija se eu estiver errado. Então, cientista política, jornalista...
Tira jornalista, quase que eu falei pra
jornalista.
Luciana hoje. Luciana, não sou mais jornalista, já cansei de jornalista da minha vida.
Então, sim.
Sou cientista política, escritora e ativista, feminista, tudo isso pode. Okay. Só que eu quero cancelar o jornalismo e tá difícil.
Carioca, mãe...
nem sou carioca, sou paulista.
Ah, é?
E esse sotaque, então?
Eu morei a vida toda no Rio.
Gente!
Uau,
essa traição.
carioca. Ok. Eu vou fazer uma introdução bem...
Tá, mas faz political scientist e writer, tá tudo bem.
Ok.
E activist, se você quiser.
Perfect. Okay. 1, 2, 3 e... Hi, welcome. We're here on behalf of the OLA, Organization of Lusophone and Hispanic Students. And we're interviewing today Débora Thomé. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
She's an activist, political scientist, and also writer who recently published a book that's really well known in Brazil, which is called 50 Brazilian Women, Incredible Brazilian Women. It's a book targeted to young audience. So I'll start this conversation asking a little bit of the questions that you probably touched already on, but my first big question is, how do you differentiate between the Débora mother, the Débora political science, the Débora that's a woman, and all those roles that are connected, but at the same time you have to be
dealing with all the time.
Yeah. Yes.
I'm used to say that I'm a gender specialist. I am a humanist, as a joke. But just to mention, I think we have to start to thinking about women like a variety of things. Women and men, for sure. But I think we mostly have like roles for women that are so static. And I think we have to think more about our diversity. I mean, I used to write with the computer on my legs like this, and one children here, the other one here, because I have 2 kids, and so they were like all around. But sometimes you need to write alone. But at the same time, to have this interchange with the children, I used to read to them and said, what do you think about it? Is it good? Is it not? And it's funny because the children usually know what they like. And for example, I remember when I wrote one of the pieces, the first pieces I showed my kid, and she said, Mother, I love this girl with the white hat. And I thought, yes, for children I have to write with the right hat. So with the white hat. So what I think it's important is that we think about not to be, I cannot be a mother of this kind of a stereotype of the mother because no one can. I cannot be the stereotype of a writer because no one can. We are not fixed the characters. We are sometimes, if my daughter has a fever or something, I have to take care of her. And maybe this day I write just a few minutes. We used to think about this perfect PhD student, this perfect, and in fact we are more like flexible.
A little bit of everything.
Yeah, we all, like men too. But we we have so high standards of being a mother, of being something, and then and so maybe if you can be more flexible and more understand better the different ways that mothers can. For a long time, I used to say I used to say that, oh, I'm not a kind of mother, like I don't have this mother thing. And then I said, I'm a mother, so I have my own kind of mother. What you were telling about? So it's I think something like this. So I try to put all of them together, but because in the end there's just one Débora.
Yes.
Just Débora has to do this whole thing and try to deal with different roles and characters.
You kind of answered my follow-up question. It has to do a little bit of that. Is there a difference in inspiring, let's say, in raising your children to this, to be introduced to this new women role or this new society, and between that and inspiring women through your books? So like, is there that feminist part of you? How do you?
I think they are both in dialogue. I mean, it's a kind of a inspirate yourself and inspire the others. I love to. My favorite character from my book. I don't know if it's my favorite test, but it's my favorite character for sure. It's a Brazilian singer called Elis Regina. And to write her piece with small, I took like 2 or 3 days watching movies, listen to her music, and reading stuff about her. And for me, it was kind of a moment. I mean, like, I was very inspired by her and to look to her life. And he's a very intense woman, and she has a talent, enormous talent. And so I was like inspired. And at the same time, what I felt when I wrote is that if someone reads this, they want to understand what I felt. So it's kind of I think I told this morning, not in the talk, but in the class before, you have to be vulnerable to be a good writer. If you are not vulnerable, and I think Marta did a great job also with this, is you have to listen. Sometimes you have to listen your own voice. Sometimes you have to listen what you were reading, what music you were listening, but you have to be inspired. And I think kids inspire me, and at the same time I can inspire them back. But I think the whole thing, the magic, is to be vulnerable. You have to be vulnerable. You have to be there. You have to be like filling with all your skin. It's kind of a being like you were in.
And this is not only about gender, right? We have to teach, because we usually, when we see a child crying, we're like, tough up, don't cry, or we try to behave like it's wrong to feel. But as you're saying, we should embrace those feelings, right?
Yeah, I'm a terrible mother in the sense. I am the one who said you can cry. No. I mean, I have a lot of limits. But concerning the feelings, I think it's very important. And in fact, I have something here I cannot show. My tattoo is saying that it's in Spanish because I'm a Spanish fan, but it's saying that you have to dance, you have to live, you have to love, and you have to feel. Because I think to feel, if you were a writer, you cannot feel, you cannot let your it hurts sometimes. I cried a lot writing this book. I cried every day because you have to get emotion, not to write, but to research.
Yes.
In the moment you are writing, you have to be rational a little bit because you have to choose words. You have to decide what is good how to do it better, but you have to be vulnerable to your feelings and to try to touch people, because if you are not touched, how you can touch people afterwards?
Absolutely. No, for sure. I read a piece of yours online. I don't recall the newspaper right now, but it talked about this whole taboo that we have around the label feminist, right? So it's very interesting, and you talk a little bit about this in the article, how women are practicing feminism, but they don't want to admit to themselves that they're feminists. How do you, through your books and through your activism, how do you try to demystify or work with these labels? Or
I think there's a lot of prejudice around feminism in Brazil, and with the word.
Everywhere.
Yeah. And to say you are a feminist, it means that someone told me that in the 70s, to say that you are a feminist, it means that you are a lesbian. So you have double targeting. So it's and sometimes you say, and then since nowadays I grew up in a small city, and my friends from this small city say, I'm not a feminist, you are. And I said, okay, you travel alone, you have your own money, you share to raise your kids with your husband, you don't let him control you, but why you're not a feminist? Yeah, maybe. And so I think this experience to being raised in a medium class family, more conservative, and to have to deal with this small city, it makes me understand that sometimes it's a problem of the word.
yes.
It's not a problem of the concept, but much more the word you use. So sometimes it's for example, sometimes for a lesbian, for a family, it's easier to say, no, she lives with a friend, with her friend who's a woman. And I'm not saying that's good. I really love. I don't let anyone say that. You are not a feminist, you are feminine. And I said, no, I'm a feminist. I am a feminist. I'm very proud of being a feminist. But what I think we have to deal with, since we are in a moment of, it's so difficult to have this conversation, these dialogues among people who say are feminists and they are not. And we have to try to find space. I'm not so sure we'll find it, but there's some. Because there are kind of prejudice who is against women. And so, for example, you have like this deputy, she's a very conservative, she's the same party of Bolsonaro, and she had a lot of prejudice against herself because she was a woman. And so I think we have to find some dialogues. I know we don't have so much space and all of this, but I still trying to find it. So a way to work with this is trying to dialogue, to ask, okay, why you are telling me you are not a feminist? I have a conversation with my grandmother and she said, I'm not a feminist. She's now, I think, 87 right now. And she said, oh, I'm not a feminist. And I said, sorry, Grandma, but you were a great feminist. You just don't know. Why I'm a feminist? And I said, do you think that women can work? Yes. Do you think that women deserve to have the same amount of money? Yes. And do you think that she's a little bit against my husband take care of the kids, but but I mean, like, in the end she said, okay, maybe I can be a feminist because she's very liberal in many senses. So it's I think we have to try to explain, because sometimes it's so difficult to understand the other, and I think this vulnerability and this kind of listen to people and understand that people are not just bad and good.
They don't fit into boxes, right?
Yeah, so sometimes if you listen to these people, you can understand their reason and say, maybe if you try this way, what do you think? And I really like it to listen afterwards what they have to say. And I have to say that, for example, I had some friends who are my more kind of a queen bee. And they used to say, no, I'm the kind of woman that has never any problems with concerning sexism. And after 1 year, we have like a group to study, and they said, you know, you were right. And they remember sometimes, and they start to, because I used to say that we have like a glasses. When you start to put these glasses and say, wow, this is sexism, it's everywhere, it's all the time. So it's so I think
and still going into the theme of labeling and fitting things into boxes, not being a feminist, being a feminist. In your book, for our American viewers, she included the first female Brazilian president, Dilma Rousseff, and this was somewhat problematic for some people because it can be viewed, the work as a whole can be viewed through the lenses of the left or the right, and we have a lot of problems of that in Brazil right now. So concerning that, how do you deal with, you know, your production and it trying or not trying to fit into the boxes from the left or the right or this or that? You know?
What I try to do every time is to find a way through literature, through poetic, to tell stories. So, for example, we have this discussion if we are including Dilma or not including Dilma, and then we decide to include because she was the first president. What make a lot of critics from the rightists. But I do think that they know she's, and what I try to is not to have like prejudice among other women who are in the book, and maybe they are more conservative. I did tell a story of a woman who was a Catholic, a very important Catholic, and also a nun. I also have a nun there, and so their stories. I think the mixed make more clear that what I want to tell a story about women. Of course, I won't tell stories maybe about women who wants to kill another women, but I want to tell stories that of a group who, for some reason, have suffered prejudice and this kind of invisibility in all Brazilian history. So, for sure, when you talk about this struggle, people say, "No, you're a feminist, you are a leftist, you are something," but I am.
Yeah, and sometimes they are, but they don't want to label themselves.
Yeah. So what I think is that it's important to still trying to do your thing, even in the worst times. You have to do what a writer doesn't know what to do instead of writing. It's kind of you listen to voices inside your head. It's crazy. People say, how do you write? And I said, I listen to voices. Someone telling me the story I want to tell. And so sometimes I'm nervous or everything. And in these times that I've been tough times in Brazil, writing is kind of escape. You have like, I'm writing and so I'm dealing with my own things and thoughts and maybe change something. I'm not so sure to change, but I'm trying.
Well, on that note, could you talk to us a little bit about your new project? I know you're going to talk on the talk tomorrow, but that would be interesting as well.
Yes. After this first book, which was a success in Brazil, thankfully, and they invite me to write a second one. It's called, we don't have the title, but it probably will be 50 Brasileiras or LGBT Incríveis, which means incredible. We don't know already, but it's a project. This project for the Brasileiras was from around 8 years old to 14. Now we are planning from 16, so it's more like a teenager book. And we are using the stories of greatest LGBTQ plus. Trying to, it's a different project a little bit, but it's trying to bring their story in the sense of this. There is a very interesting project here in the US. It's called It Gets Better Project. It's a project to say that we have this story. And you can deal with this because for the teenager, people say that it's the worst time to be LGBTQ people. So it's saying that read this story. These people have a contribution in their life, or they have a great life. So the idea is to inspire in this sense, to say, you know that you were making history. Although people were putting you in boxes, people are putting, or people are telling what you have to do, you make history. So we are bringing the story of Cassia Eller. We are bringing the story of, I'm trying not to say that, but we have Cassia Eller, we have like Ney Mato Grosso, we have George Lafon, we have a lot of, and we have also a curator. I'm working with a curator who is helping me with the list. And it's very interesting. We have a lot of different characters. It also has a project, I don't know if a project from US, with the same kind of book. And I already made the research for 20 characters and wrote a few. So I hope to be out this year.
That is very exciting. I can't help to, I don't know, but I can't help to think about Pablo Vittar either, in the success that he has been.
Yeah, he's on the list. Yeah,
outside.
she's. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I didn't make he research. I don't know if he identifies himself or he or she.
I think it's she.
I think it's she. Yeah, but she is in the list.
Yeah, and it's just amazing because she's well known here. I mean,
yeah,
for a singer, for a Brazilian singer, she's very well known. So I can only imagine how much. I can't wait for that project.
Yeah, we have a lot of stories, and also like historical people. Like there is a man called Herbert Daniel, who was very important in the dictatorship, and after a while, and he is very known abroad also because her fight against HIV and so this. I'm discovering new people, and I'm always, and you know, like something that makes, wow, this is great. It's because you target people like, he's gay, and you think when you start to research that you find some similarities. No. The only thing that they have in common is that they are men who like men or women who like women, but they don't have anything in common. Many of them are very conservative, like more heteronormative. Another are non-heteronormative, but I mean it's
as varied as in that heterosexual world. And
I mean like there's it makes so clear that there is. This is just one thing, and we are putting like this is a whole thing. But what I'm trying in the test, indeed, what I do is I usually don't mention like he's gay, I don't put that in boxes in the test. I tell their story.
Of course. Oh, that's very interesting, and I think it's more interesting that you may. That's the reason. The same reasoning behind this book. I came looking for one author that I wanted to read about, and I found out about a bunch of other women that I never heard of. So this project, I can't imagine how many of those you're going to bring to us and communicate.
Yeah, they are coming to me too. I'm very happy to know them.
That's awesome.
The last month.
That's great. Yes. Sorry. And my last question would be about you have a bloquinho de carnaval.
A bloco. I don't let anyone call it a bloquinho. Because I will explain to the audience. This is important.
Okay.
There is a thing called bloco de carnaval, which is a kind of samba school. I'm explaining to the audience.
Okay, yes, of course.
And people in São Paulo start to call it bloquinho, which is a little bloco. And mine is big, so mine is a bloco.
Okay, and it's diminishing too. Pinho sometimes can be diminishing. And it's called Mulheres Rodadas. Yes. And could you explain to us a little bit about it?
Yes, in 2014, I have a friend from my high school.
Oh.
And we were exchanging text message or something, and she said, "Oh, did you see this guy. There was a guy on Facebook saying, "Oh, I don't deserve to be a mulher rodada." Mulher rodada, for the audience, we're not familiar with, is this idea that women, mulher rodada is a joke with the words that women who has a lot of life, they travel, they are free, they have a lot of freedom. And so she said, "Oh, this is ridiculous." We are in 2014 and people are saying this. And so we start to make a joke and say, "Oh, let's start a movement on the Facebook." So we started this movement called Mulheres Rodadas. And in 24 hours, we have like more than 1,000 confirmations, and people start to say, "Oh, you're doing this, is for sure, it's not for sure." So in the end, we have this Bloco de Carnaval. We have in the first year like 2,000 people there.
Oh wow.
Which is a lot for this kind of movement. It was the first feminist Bloco de Carnaval from Rio de Janeiro.
Wow.
And we're everywhere. I gave interviews also for The Economist. This magazine, because we start to like have this discussion concerning feminist in participation of the women in Carnival, because Carnival used to be known as very sexist.
Oh yeah.
And so we said, no, and so Renata now is taking care of this because I moved from Rio, and so Renata take care, my friend. And we now have like, they rehearsed for the whole year.
Wow.
Yeah, and we have like talks every month concerning feminism, and they also know how to play the drums.
Awesome.
And it's a very...
If you're in Brazil, look it up. It's a really amazing project.
Thank you.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, and I hope you guys have enjoyed it. And yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.